Thanks for coming back. This is the Millennial Outliers podcast. I'm your host, Justin Deal. My co-host, Tyler Ardron's not with us today. He has some pretty amazing things going on, both personally and professionally, but I'll save that for him to share, and I'm sure we'll do a episode on that. But today, friends, very, very excited and stoked for this. I'm sure I'll be rewatching so I can take notes as I'll be here interviewing and can't jot them down now. I have a very good friend of mine with us today. This is going to be a masterclass for any of you out there who you want to get involved in social media. You have things you're passionate about. You see all these people that you assume, just happened overnight, right? It was one viral video. Matt is going to break down how he went from being a gym teacher to being a social media influencer with more than 5 million followers on all his platforms, being on TV shows, creating channel partnerships, and just all the opportunities that come from networking, from showing up consistently, and just from being a man of your word. So it's my pleasure to introduce Matt Groark, a.k.a. the meat teacher, a.k.a. Groark Boys Barbecue. Matt, welcome, brother.
Thanks, Justin. I appreciate it, man. This is a sit down that's long overdue, man. I think we've been following each other and friends for over a decade, but in this kind of grind that we've been on, both of us, over the years, I know we've both been huge supporters of each other, and so to sit down and shoot this back and forth is going to be fun, man.
It's ironic you say shoot, because that's actually where we met.
See what I did there?
Very quick backstory. Matt and I actually met on the basketball court. Matt was a bit of a sharpshooter in his day, and we would go back and forth trading buckets, but always respected Matt because he's one of the few people, call him dumb or call him brave, but he would step up and he would take a charge, whether it was the 280-pound version of myself in good shape or the 320-pound fat version I went through. Matt was brazen enough. He would step up and, real recognizes real. You got to respect that. And that's kind of where our relationship blossomed from. And, I knew he was a teacher within our community, which was fantastic. And I started to see more of his social media posting. And he was very passionate about barbecue. So I want to let you take it from there. So how did something, I assume, that you just did to kind of keep your peace, right, from crazy weeks with, your students, to then, Nash and Adric, your boys, juggling, your wife, Kristen, how did becoming a social media influencer, how does this even happen?
Yeah, it's a wild ride, man. But I think, it probably happened a lot like most, may have similar stories that so many of us don't find a real passion until we're a little bit older, right? I mean, for me, I got into teaching a little bit later. I was 26 when I started teaching in Washington Township. Been fortunate to be there my whole career. 20 years just ended, so it's kind of crazy to think I've been doing that long. And then I've always cooked. I've always been around kitchens. I've worked in restaurants my entire life. As a teacher, I always tell people when I tell this story, I've never just had one job. I think since I was 16, I've always had multiple jobs, multiple things I was juggling, to make money early on. And, with teaching, it was no different. Teachers just, be straight up about it. Don't necessarily get paid maybe what they deserve. And I think the majority think that. Yes, we have summers off, and that's what people love to say, right? Yeah. How can you say you don't get paid enough? You have 3 months off or 2 months off in the summertime. And my answer to that is go talk to a teacher and let me know how many of them don't work in the summertime, right? Because they don't. They don't have that luxury. We don't have that luxury. The majority of us have other jobs. So from the time I was 26, I mean, I was waiting tables in restaurants since 2000. Since I was 19, 20. Working at Lone Star Steakhouse on the Black Horse Pike, right? You go, you see the line dancing and throwing the peanuts on the ground. Like that was my first waiting tables, bartending job. And that was really what I did up until, my early 30s. I was just in restaurants waiting tables. I was never in the back of the house where the food is. I was always in the front of the house serving, which, is part of dealing with people and learning how to socialize and make relationships and give good impressions. And, that's carried over into my teaching because I'm in front of kids all year long, that public speaking aspect of things. So many advantages of it. But, went from waiting tables, coaching basketball, doing driver's ed, 3-6 hours at a time behind the wheel with a 16-year-old, teaching him how to drive, risking my life.
I was just say, that sounds scary.
Yeah, I mean, it's nuts, dude. So it was a great job too. But I never just had one job. Basketball camps in the summer, all this kind of stuff. So it's always been, there's always been so much going on. I love teaching. I loved doing the driving. I loved waiting tables, but they were all jobs, right? So fast forward, I'd say we're 2024 now. It's God, I would say 2016-ish, 2017. I've always tailgated, right? I'm a season ticket holder for the Eagles, whether it's an Eagles game, Phillies game. I've always been like a big, let's get there early and tailgate and cook and drink and hang out and have a good time. I've always been that way. We've had season tickets since 2001, when the link first opened. So we've been longtime season ticket holders, and I kind of adopted early on, before I kind of got into the grilling thing, that I would handle the tailgate, right? My younger brother and my dad, my older brother they'd pack the coolers. They'd make sure we were hydrated throughout the day. My dad would go pick up snacks and little things like that, but I would handle the food. And when I say handle the food, we had breakfast, we had lunch, we had a pregame snack, and then we had the entree before we went into the game, which was usually ribs or a tomahawk or, all these grill items. So I really got into it and learned, but at that time there wasn't short video. There wasn't, YouTube was around, but it wasn't, what it is now with food creators and content. So a lot of it I was just kind of winging on my own. But that's where the passion started, is in the parking lot at Lincoln Financial Field, tailgating and feeding people, right? Because even though it was just me, my dad, and my brothers, people would be walking by and be like, what the hell's going on over there? Like, smoker going, grill going, right? So I would feed all kinds of people. If I had the food, I'm feeding you. Like, that's just the way it is. And that part of it got to be a routine, an expectation, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of prep. But I started really catching a bug for it. So fast forward to about 2017, 18, my father-in-law actually dropped off. We had dog sat for them. My mother-in-law and father-in-law, we dog sat for them for a weekend. And when they came home, John, he had this box and he dropped it in my kitchen. And it was just a little, 32-inch like box, master built smoker, electric smoker, propane smoker. And I had never smoked anything before in my life. And I'm like, what is this? He was like, I just wanted to say thanks. Here, you can have it. It's been in my garage. I ordered it 6 months ago, never even opened it. I'll never use it. So he's like, I'll give it to you. Figured he'd give it to me and maybe I would play with it and maybe he'd bear some fruit, right? Yeah. Get some food. So sure enough, that night I unboxed that thing. I put it in my backyard and I went to Sam's Club and I bought almost every kind of protein you could imagine. I bought wood chips. I was online figuring out how to smoke, how to run the smoker, reading up. I was soaking my wood chips overnight because that's what I read that you're supposed to do. You woke up at 4 a.m. the next morning, and I'm not a big morning person, as much as crazy as that is being a teacher. I woke up at like 3, 4 a.m. I start prepping all the meat. I season it. I take it all outside. I throw everything on the smoker. Some of it was decent. Most of it was probably trash, in terms of, in the grand scheme of what it should have tasted like. But that fire was lit, man. And at the time, it was so much more than the food. It was the fact that, man, I was up at 4 a.m. I was out front. I was out back. I had my coffee. I'm sitting there. I still have a picture on my phone to this day because my wife woke up. Kristen woke up and snapped a picture of me through the window. And I'm like sitting in the chair, coffee in my hand, smoke bellowing out of the smoker. And I guess it would just look like a peaceful moment. And she snapped a picture. And that's what it was for me, man. That's what really lit the fire, is that sense of calm, the peace, the, playing with fire. It's very, it's old school, man. And it's a process and you have to learn it and it's a challenge. And That's what I really took to. So that's what started it, man. It kind of took off from there.
I love a few points that you made there. One, obviously, the fact that a random gift, right? Like your father-in-law had no idea that was literally going to be a pivotal moment in the future. Two, I love your philanthropic heart. You've always, since we've known each other, that I think we even had a conversation at one point when you kind of started as a business, because you're always donating everything that you made. And I was like, Matt, you have to keep some of the money. You have to stop. Like you would host an event, you'd be like, no, I'm giving it all away. And I love that about you, because it is about the greater good of everybody. You just like to feed people. That's what it's about. It's not about the monetization of any of it. But let's go into the actual content creation, right? Because I think most people, the big stigma out there, right, is that like you need a team, you have to spend all this money on this fancy equipment, you need editing tools, you need all of these things. Yeah. So tell people, how do you create your content, man?
Man, I like right here, man, this is it. Like I have never, for someone that has the amount of followers I do, I would venture to say the majority have some sort of setup, right? They have some sort of $2,000 to $3,000 camera with a boom mic and lighting and all this stuff, right? And you're talking of potentially tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment.
Yeah.
And I have plenty of friends that have that whole setup, and it shows. Their content shows that. You can see. You look at my content, you look at their content. It is obviously different, obviously more edited, more crisp, more pretty, more staged, and I get that, but I got into this and blew up because of this on my phone, making content that was in my house, in my backyard, and a lot of my cooking, I'm not just sitting behind the counter in my kitchen in one space where a lot of these content creators are. I'm in my house, I'm in my backyard, I'm going to the grill, I'm doing all these different things. It was just so convenient and so easy to have what we have in our hand with these phones, and the quality. I'm going to post a video later today, and I was watching it, editing it, and I'm like, man, this looks really good for being on a phone. And the quality of video that these phones take is like insane, and it's only getting better. So really the only thing I've really invested in is like a mic.
Okay.
A good lav mic.
And that's what you do your voiceovers with?
That's how I do my voiceovers. DJI is a company that most are familiar with. They do drones. They do video, audio stuff, gimbals, is all I have is a gimbal and a mic set from DJI. And that's just so I have better sound, ASMR kind of stuff, something really nice about when you're, slicing into a brisket or slicing it where you hear the meat, you know? And that goes a long way in terms of content. But I think that my virality, not only the topic of some of my content, the funny, sarcastic stuff that some people take not so sarcastic, like pretending to feed my wife, my vegetarian wife meat. And she is vegetarian. People ask me all the time, oh, she's not vegetarian. It's just a joke. I'm like, no, she is. She's been vegetarian since she was 13. Yeah. I've never seen her eat a piece of meat. And she does not eat my meat that I cook. Yeah. It's all staged. It's a joke, but people don't know that. And when you create controversy, it pushes your content. And, there's no better example than me in that series that I did. But I think my content took to people because it wasn't so staged and perfect. And, I was holding my phone. It was maybe a little shaky. It had, my dogs running and barking in the background, a cat on the counter, my kids yelling and interrupting me. All those things have become a big part of my content. And I think that it's very real. It's authentic. And I think that's a big part of it. I don't see myself really changing any of that in the near future until I get to a point where maybe I have a different setup at home. My house just isn't set up for it either. So that's a part of it as well. But if it's not broke, why fix it, right?
Amen. Authentic is definitely the word I think of when I see your content. And one thing I noticed, I was thinking of it this morning, is to your point that you do the voiceovers, and it seems like everybody else on social media does the words on the screen. I notice
Yeah.
you don't typically do that.
Yeah, so on occasion I will. I've started to, as of late, really as a recommendation from the platforms themselves, right? So I'm fortunate to be in touch and part of the YouTube creator team, the Instagram Meta creator team. I have a Meta manager that I can call at the drop of a hat, that we have meetings monthly to talk about best practices and things like that.
That's awesome.
I never really did do captions, like my own captions. There's an app called Caption.
Yeah, I use that
and
one.
it's great. They've become so insanely accurate that I remember even as much as 6 months ago, you would have to spend 20 minutes editing the captions after it read your voice. Now it's like I could do a caption and I talk fast and I talk loud and I might have a little bit of an accent and slang. It picks up everything, man.
Yeah.
At the most, if you use a word that maybe could be spelled a couple different ways, you might have to edit. I mean, I spend 2 minutes editing the captions on some of these videos, but I've never really done it that. It looks better because it has different types of font and a look. So
colors, emojis.
Right. Like, so the video I'll post today, I made a beer can chicken. And it's a great video, and it's a brand. There's a couple brands on there that I'll tag that I work with, and I did the captions on the Caption app, and it looks great. I've been, all these apps also have adopted their own caption, AI or whatever, where they automatically do it, and you can't edit their in-app captions. So I know I can go on TikTok. And the captions can be on there. Hearing impaired, it's huge. But even more so than that, the reason people are encouraged to use captions is because how often, let's say you're en route to work, you're at work, you're at lunch, you're doing something on the computer, but you're flipping through social media. Do you have the audio on?
Right.
I think it's pretty proven that like 80% of the time people watch content, they're not listening to audio.
Yeah.
So to have that caption on there that's created by you in the way you want it to be, in the way you want it to look, goes a long way in people staying engaged in your content, because that is 98% of the battle, is getting people to watch beyond that first 3 seconds. Right? If you don't grip people up after 3 seconds, you're done.
Yeah.
You have a 58-second video or a 4-minute YouTube video that has a 8-second watch time. Well, that's your answer right there, why it didn't go viral, or, oh, my video sucked, it didn't get views. Well, look at the analytics.
Yeah.
That's what they're there for.
Right.
Look at them. You don't have to be so strict that you're posting the same time every day and all this. Oh, I posted 3 hours before I posted yesterday. That's why it didn't work. No, it's because your video wasn't good enough.
Right.
It's because you didn't have a catch. You didn't have something that pulled them in the beginning. When I say feeding my vegetarian wife meat without her knowing she's eating meat, pulls people
watching.
in. That's why the watch time works. That's why it's viral. I had another viral series that was Does It Smoke? And this was like a few years ago. I was just I'd take a cup of coffee and smoke it.
Yeah.
Like, does smoked coffee taste good? And that was my catch. That was my first 3 seconds. I would take someone's comment. I would put it in my video. I would look at it and go, oh, coffee. Does it smoke?
Yeah.
And people be like, oh, shit. He's going to smoke coffee. Like, let's watch it. So if you don't, and it can go to any niche, like whatever, if you don't have a pull, a buy-in in that first 3 seconds, your video is not going to do well.
Yeah.
And, that's the way it is. My video today, I hope it does well. I think I got something in the first few seconds where, I'm pulling this big chicken off a beer can and it's dripping and it's, it's sensual. It's kind of dirty. It's kind of, but people are also going to look at it and be controversial. That beer can's aluminum. It's got paint on it. It's got all these things and you're smoking it. That can't be healthy. People are going to come back and yell at me for that. I made sure in the beginning of my video to say, don't wash your chicken. Right. Because that was a big thing that I kind of got going viral when I told people not to wash their chicken. So it's trial and error, man. And at the end of the day, the more content you put out, the more chances you have to go viral. People think too much about, okay, should I post once a day, once a week? 3 times a day. I mean, you do what you can do. Like I could never post 2 or 3 full YouTube videos a week. That's just too much. I don't have the time.
Yeah.
But, more is better at the end of the day, in my experience.
And biggest takeaway, people, the analytics, right? If you're not measuring it, you can't grow it. You don't even know what you're doing. You're just throwing that noodle against the wall, hoping it sticks.
And these analytics are so detailed now. You can pull up your YouTube, your Instagram, your TikTok, whatever it is, and you can see to the minute, to the second, when people are watching, when they're dropping off, what you did at that point when they dropped off, and you can work on those things just like anything, just like your jump shot.
Yeah. Now, you had mentioned brands as we were just talking. So why don't we jump over to, I see that you're collaborating, it seems like, with everything and everybody who has anything to do with the barbecue business. So how have you created these channel partnerships? You've even created some companies that you're owner in. How did that all come to fruition? Like, what's the roadmap for that?
So once I got to, I'd say on TikTok is my biggest platform, right? Almost, I think 3.5 million of my followers are on TikTok. My other platforms are doing great. They're all growing. Snapchat, few 100,000 on there, which is a platform that people don't even really realize.
That's one I rarely use. So
right.
Because
it was just like TikTok when it first came around. It was an app for kids, We all know what Snapchat was for early on.
No doubt.
There's an elephant in the room about that. Everybody knows what Snapchat was for. I'm a high school teacher. I know exactly what it was for with these kids and why they were using it. It's changed. There's certain, parental things that are involved with Snapchat now. They have limitations. Their safety guidelines are much better. But they have created a space now for creators too, and for creators to monetize and get brand deals, just like all the other platforms. So, Snapchat from a monetization standpoint is probably in my top 3, platforms, which is surprising for most people.
Yeah.
But I'd say when I got up to like 6 figures followers, when I was up around 100,000, 200,000, 500,000, that's when I started getting reached out to by representation companies, agents, we'll say. So once I think I was around 800, 750 when I signed with my current agency, Digital Renegades, Evan Morgenstein, owner, CEO, Christina Brennan, president. They're just awesome. I've been with them we're going on 3 years now. And, it's a 2-way road. I don't sit back and expect them to just feed me, give me deals. I'm out doing my footwork, doing what I do, making connections, building relationships with brands or with whoever it is running the brand, social media, trying to connect with them. I'm looking at brands that I want to work with. I have a list of my, hit list of companies, my bucket list of people that I want to work with. And, I keep shooting towards that. I've gotten on LinkedIn over the last year or so because you want to talk about a way to really connect with people. It's hard on Instagram to DM someone and expect a response, especially now when I had the blue check and no one else did. I could DM an athlete or DM an artist or someone and usually get a response because they see the blue check. Well, now everyone has it because you can buy it. They've monetized that part of it, which is a shame, but it's a little more difficult to get a response now, even if you do have the blue check. But your numbers speak for itself. So, but I've used LinkedIn a lot to connect with brands because now you're not just dealing with a 22-year-old social media intern that doesn't make any decisions for the company. You're now finding the CEO of the company and messaging them. So there's a little tidbit of advice. If you're a social media creator, an influencer per se, and you want to make connections with brands, get your ass on LinkedIn, right? If you have to pay for it to DM someone, you might have to if it's a high-level CEO or a marketing manager. Pay the monthly $15 a month or whatever it is to be gold status on LinkedIn and send those DMs. It's like Gary V.
Yeah.
It's like it might take 1,000 messages, but it only takes one, and depending on where you are, one brand deal could set you up for the year, in terms of what your goal might be in terms of money,
Sure. Now,
But
well, with some of those brands, so like your hit list that you're talking about,
yeah.
do you tag them in things now just to get their attention as well, so they know
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, Matt's using our stuff?
Yeah, so that was always kind of a hot button point early on before I think a lot of people had the grasp on how to kind of go about getting brand deals.
Mhm.
There was a lot of cold calls. There was a lot of DMs, sneaking into brands DMs. Let's use Kingsford charcoal, right? One of the OG of charcoal in barbecue. I have a year-long partnership with them. They're amazing. It's been incredible. I use the brand anyway. So, I've always used it. It's been, the majority of my, this whole barbecue thing is I've just used Kingsford. It's just what I know. So to be able to partner with them is awesome. And, people might be like, oh, well, I'm not working with them. They've never messaged me, so I'm not going to tag them in a video, right? Well, it's kind of changed now. And I was there. Like, why am I going to tag them when I have 3 million followers and tag them? That's giving them free promotion. Well, how about you build that relationship and that trust and that good faith? And hey, I'm a fan. I'm not just an influencer. I hate that friggin' word, and I think brands hate it. Content creator has become more of like the words that want to be used. But either way, why not take that hit list that you have and use them and tag them and DM them and send it to them and, do all those things. Is it free promotion? Sure it is. But if they are the company that you hope they are, then they're going to come to you eventually and they're going to want to talk.
Absolutely.
And then it's up to you and your team and, whether you're going to be able to close the deal, I'm watching on Netflix Suits right now. I just got hooked on Suits. So I'm in like season 2.5, but Harvey, like the closer, right? Like that's what he does. My team, Evan and Christina and all the other people behind the scenes, they're like the Harvey, man. They are the closers. I'll start the relationship if a brand reaches out to me or I reach out to a brand, or if they bring a brand to me. I'll start the initial conversation because I don't want you just dealing with my team and not knowing who I am.
Yeah.
Right. So I'll introduce myself. I'll talk. I'll get on a call. I'll do a Zoom and make sure that they get a clear understanding of who I am and how I work. I don't want one-off brand deals. Right. I don't want you to pay me 10 grand for me to shoot one video and post it.
Right.
It's not what I want.
You want a partnership.
I'd rather say no to that and get a partnership for a year for $5 grand a month. More money, more, authenticity, more, you're not just using a product and being done with it. You're going to see the products I use being used on a daily basis in my content. It might be a post for Kingsford, but you're going to see my meter plus meter probe in there. You're going to see my SNS grill in there. You're going to see other products in there that I use. Maybe it's not a specific brand deal video for them, but they're going to be in my video.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to call it out, right? But you're going to see it. So there's so many ways to play this game, man. And I think that's what I've learned. It's been trial and error. I've learned from so many amazing creators that I've gotten to be friends with. Even the camera stuff, man, little camera tricks, little editing tricks you can do, transitions, to kind of spice up your stuff.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it's been.
I love the overall mindset of that because, right, that's a business mindset. When I walk into rooms, it's not what can I get out of it. It's what can I bring? What can I give to this room? And that's your point on social. It's not like, oh, well, they haven't paid me, so why would I?
Right.
I want to give, right? You have 5 million followers. So the easiest thing that you can do is give them a little shout out. Now they know, hey, okay, Matt uses our stuff. He's giving us this free advertisement. And that's how you build rapport with people in the social rapport, right? It's like you prove your value before. Like that, I think that's the common misconception in business. Like, oh, well, once you pay me, I'm going to show you what I have.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, no, you have to show people ahead of time what you're capable of and like what you bring to the table. And then out of nowhere, call it luck, call it whatever you want. There comes the money.
And I'll tell you, Kingsford is probably one of my partnerships that's the exact path it followed. In 2018, when I was in my backyard in Washington Township with my Weber kettle grill, I had a bag of Kingsford next to me. I mean, I was tagging them. I was doing them. I've cooked with them. I've tagged them so much. It may have been a 3 to 4 year process of me using Kingsford and putting my foot down and being like, this is it. I'm just using Kingsford. It's what I've always used. It's what I'm going to continue to use. And at some point, I'm going to work for Kingsford.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to work with Kingsford. And we're going to do this, and we're going to do it long term.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see Kingsford, you're going to see Matt Groark in the same sentence. My boy Rashid Phillips, big time barbecue guy. He was the runner up on Barbecue Battle, or Barbecue Showdown on Netflix. He's a rock star, and he's a monster. He's like 6'7", just beast. But I have some things coming with him in the next, year or so where hopefully we can collab. But he's a Kingsford guy, and he's been with them for years. It's relationships, man. It's making those connections. And I have my partnership with Kingsford now because of the work I put in for 3-4 years prior to signing the deal with them that I did this year. And, it's my deal is specifically pellet, their pellet line of products. But come September in the fall, they're going to push out another charcoal, deal, that they're going to want to, put out their campaign.
Yeah.
We'll call it another campaign for charcoal. Who are they going to call? They're going to call me.
Yeah.
They're going to call Rashid. They're going to call the people that have been with them. And that doesn't happen overnight. Like so much of this stuff we've said, there's so much work involved, from a family standpoint, man. And because you had the little ones running around all over the place, to be able to do what you do and commit this time. This right now is a sacrifice, for both of us. And if you're not doing something that causes you to sacrifice things, then I don't know how you become successful with it. We certainly are family guys too. And, we're blessed to have the flexibility and freedom to do these things. But, it doesn't come without a price, right? It doesn't come easy. It doesn't come without catching a little flack from the missus, and having to deal with it. But, Kristen, I think her and I can kind of look back and laugh about it now, but it's not something that didn't take work. It's not something that didn't, potentially take counseling and therapy to be able to have these conversations, because this is all new. Like doing a podcast, running a business like this is new, Justin.
Yeah.
It's new for you. It's new for your family. Having a social media brand that is making me more money than my teaching job that I've been doing for 20 years, it's new space. It's a new space for me. It's something new for Kristen to figure out. And we've been working on that. 5-6 years ago, when I was spending hours on my phone editing and scrolling and DMing and doing all these things, and she was yelling at me to get off my phone and spend time with the kids or do this and that, and the guilt that I felt when Daddy, come have a catch. All right, I'll be there in 5 minutes. Like, I try not to do that anymore. If you ask me to go have a catch, I go have a catch. I can put stuff down now, but it was a long road to get there. And, I remember even the first time early on when Kristen was like, you're spending too much time on your phone. You got to spend time with the kids. Come have dinner. Shut it down at 6 p.m. All those things you see on the, these motivational videos that some are good, but some are just unrealistic. There's no way I'm putting my phone down at 6 p.m. and shutting it down. It could cost me tens of thousands of dollars,
Sure, yeah.
But I said to Kristen real early on, I said, babe, this is going to pay the bills one day. And this was before TikTok was what it is. This was before YouTube. This was before I was monetizing anything, before an agent, before a TV show, before anything. And I said it to her, and we probably had that interaction 3 or 4 times over, that first couple years where I was like, babe, this is going to pay the bills one day. And I think we have finally gotten to a point where our communication is so strong around this, and our support for each other is even stronger in that, she was a principal. She would talk about responsibility, and not just a principal, but she was like a COVID principal, right? She was in education for 13 years, got into administration, was an assistant, was a director of education, got to be a principal in Medford right when COVID was happening. She was a principal for 6 months, and then March happened, 2020 March, and shut everything down. And that's all she knew. It got to be too much. She couldn't be a mom. She couldn't be the wife she wanted to be. So we sat and talked, and we were in a position as a team for her to be able to retire and give it up for the time being. If she wants to go back, she always could. But right now it doesn't look like she needs to. Mm-hmm. And she has passion projects that she's working on, volunteer, charity stuff. And, it's been wild, but it all started with my mindset that I was convinced, I'm like, this is going to pay the bills one day. And now we're there.
Yeah, you held the vision and you shared it. I think that's what people miss, right? Like we keep a lot of those inside, and especially our partners, right? Like that's the most important person to share that vision with. But something you said earlier, it reminded me of the two of the realest truths I've ever found in my life. And one is that everything's our fault at the end of the day, right? We're in control of way more decisions than we give ourselves credit for. And two is that everything has a cost, right? To your point, some of my best weeks in business, I'm probably the worst husband and father. Mm-hmm. The weeks that I'm the best husband and father, business probably suffers, right? It's everything, the equal but opposite reaction, right? So let's talk about, you've built this whole following. Social media is going well, and now you're having other opportunities. So one of my favorite things that I got to really it was like a family thing, was watching you on Next Level Chef. So how did that come to be? And then tell me, what were like some of the biggest lessons that you learned being on a TV show, being around other, content creators, like Michelin star chefs, an ex-NFL athlete.
Yeah.
I mean, tell us a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, I think, man, it changed things so much. Coming into this whole thing, even going back to 2018, that's when I first created Groark Boys Barbecue as a business. And for so long, and because we've done this together, events or whatever, and you've come to my rig and you've had food, and that was always what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was just going to be, I got this awesome barbecue rig. I have an investor that believes in me, that supports me, that helped me to get that barbecue rig I have now. And I ordered that and had it built back during COVID. Mm-hmm. And a lot has changed since then. And now I'm in a position where, in the totem pole of priorities, in a crazy way, and it's a hard line to figure out, because I look at it in a way and I see a failure, but then I look at it in another way and I see it as a decision that needs to be made out of the fact that I've grown and I've done so much good and created a brand that's bigger than just serving barbecue at a brewery, mm-hmm. Or anything like that. Not that that's, it's something I had a goal to do, but my goal has just changed. So now I'm in a position where I just don't have that time to go do events and, be at breweries selling barbecue. So, I'm in a position now where I need to figure out, am I going to sell the rig and move on and continue doing what I'm doing from this standpoint? And that takes me to the opportunity to be on TV. Mm-hmm. So these casting companies, they'll reach out to you, especially those that are on social media. They'll send you a DM. And a lot of people, I've gotten so many calls now that I've been on the show, Next Level Chef with Gordon Ramsay, and they're casting for the next 2 seasons right now. I have people hit me up every day like, yo, I got this email. Is it real? Or I got this, DM from this company, this casting company, saying they're interested in me applying. And that's what the casting company will do. They will kind of DM some people that they find are interesting and could be good fits. I'll refer people. I'll say, hey, go, you should apply. I think you'd be good at it. Being the social media person I am and the following I had, they reached out to me. They said, hey, we'd love for you to apply. This was like last school year, 2 school years ago, last spring. And they were like, it was like April. And I questioned it like big time. I'm not a chef. Yeah. And this Next Level Chef isn't like Barbecue Showdown, mm-hmm. With Bobby Flay and, Barbecue Battle, all those shows where it's barbecue and cooking with fire. And this is like you're in a kitchen. This is like a chef show. You're dealing with social media chefs, home cooks, and professional chefs. So there was a lot of doubt instantly, mm-hmm. right? Like, I can't do this. I just cook meat. I'm a barbecue guy. And I've turned down other opportunities, whether it be Barbecue Showdown, which I had the chance to apply for that a couple years ago and didn't, just because it's during the school year that they film. And I never thought I'd be able to just, okay, I'm going to skip out for a month and not teach and go film a show. But then this opportunity came, and I've grown since those other opportunities. So, my priorities have kind of changed. And I went to Kristen with it, that I've been invited to kind of apply. And that's not a guarantee that I would be on. But I told her, I voiced my doubts to her, like, I'm not a chef. I can't do this. And she's like, oh, you'll figure it out. And at the end of the day, she was like, given all my insecurities about it, she pretty much looked at me and was like, I know you can bleep this out if you want, but it was her words. She was like, she goes, Matt, it's Gordon fucking Ramsay. Figure it out. You can't say no to this. Go to your school, go to your superintendent, ask for the for the unpaid leave, figure out if it's even possible and start there. If your school supports you, if they do, then you move forward with figuring out how to cook, the things that you're not comfortable with. So
that's so beautiful, not to cut you off, but like they say one of the most important decisions as a man you can make is who you pick as your partner. And the fact that she spoke greatness into you in a time when you were like, your bitch voice was just running wild, right? That is just so key. Okay,
yeah. I mean, she said that and it like clicked. I'm like, yeah, you're right. It is Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah.
And, it'd probably be an amazing opportunity. And, even if I do fall on my face and get eliminated episode 1, whatever.
Which you didn't. You actually got an amazing compliment.
Yeah, I didn't. It was just crazy.
If I remember, Gordon Ramsay said, whoever cooked this man knows meat.
Knows how to nail his meat. That's what Gordon said. Yep. So, and I've used that clip plenty of times on my social media now.
Yeah, I mean, what's more validating than that, right?
I know. So, but she also said to me when it came to the cooking part, I had a buddy of mine, Noah Sims, who is, he was on MasterChef season 10, which was their 10th anniversary of the show. It was a big season. A couple huge names have come out of it, that weren't even the winner. Noah's amazing. Nick DiGiovanni, quite possibly, the biggest food creator in the world right now, who I'm honored and, humbled to be friends with and have learned so much from both of them. But, I had Noah fly out to my house, and Noah's from Georgia. So he flew up and he spent like 4 days with me. And Kristen allowed this, right? Like he spent 4 days with me. He crashed, in the spare room. And he put me on like a frickin' cooking crash course for like 4 days.
Nice.
Going over the French sauces, the mother sauces, different tricks of the trade, whether it's chopping and cutting or, cooking methods and, whatever it was. Like I've never really cooked a duck. He taught me how to do that, how to properly render the fat, what pans to use. Like he taught me so much in those 4 days, and, it helped me insurmountable the amount of improvement just in that knowledge that I gained over those 4 days. But, Kristen also, again, with just the positive reinforcement from her, my fear was always those sauces and side dishes and stuff like that, or just messing up in general. And she was like, Matt, look at all the TV shows where it's food competition. In most cases, why do people get kicked out, or why do people go to an elimination? And I looked at her, I was like, why? And she says, because they either overcook or undercook their protein, or they don't salt their food enough.
Yeah.
Something as simple as salt. Yeah. It's bland. She goes, your food is not bland, so you're good there. And meat is your superpower. That's what you're best at, and that is the biggest reason people go home, because it's raw, right? Which is Gordon's famous line, right? It's bloody raw. Like, that's not going to be an issue for me. So just right there, the amount of confidence that just words can bring you put me in a headspace where I'm like, I got this shit. And then at the same time, I'm like, you know what? If I go home first, who cares? But another buddy of mine, Gary, the barbecue chef on social media, he was on season 1. He was the barbecue guy on season 1. And they'll probably, have a barbecue guy every season, you know? And he got eliminated first episode. season 1. So I went into all my interviews like, hey, I just got to do better than Gary, right? He embarrassed the barbecue community, like joking with him.
Sure.
And he was a good sport about it, but the casting company loved it. I'm like, I need to step up for the barbecue community and show that we can do more than just barbecue. And sure enough, I won the immunity pin the first episode. I got to 7 episodes, which was halfway through the season. It was a 14 episode season. And to get more specific to the questions, man, the people I cooked with, bro, like this crew, and it goes for anything, right? I can liken it to being part of a team, basketball team. We're sports guys. We grew up on teams. The camaraderie, the ball busting, the support from people that you're even competing against. And you and I are probably such a good example of that, because we could be physical, we could be tough, we could have words back and forth on occasion. You and I never really did that, but we certainly did with other people we played against.
And refs.
Yep. But then you can go to the bar and have a drink with them after, and it's fine because it's the competition. And that's the perfect way to describe this crew of people that I competed against and am now like family with, 17 of them. And, to say that, you're not going to stay in touch with many of them, man, could that be more wrong? Like we all have a text feed that we're still part of. It's been, however long since we were together filming. We've all collaborated with each other in different videos. I was just with Tucker, who was the winner of, season 2.
I love that you had to play on your plating skills.
Dude. So we just did a collab video together. She came out and visited, and she's going to be part of a big project that I have going on with some other people that we'll chit chat about in a second. But, that's what we're doing. Like as much as the competition was a thing, at the end of the day, we all know we can help each other grow and be better, than what we were when we were there. So, man, what a crew. And to be in the presence of Gordon and Naisha and Richard Blaze, and to still be able to have their, influence on things. Richard still likes my videos, will comment every once in a while. I know that if push came to shove and I sent him a DM and needed something or saw an opportunity, that he would most likely respond. It's priceless, man. The relationships that you build are absolutely the biggest part of being able to grow and build something bigger than just a social media presence. And that's what this is for me. It's about, if 2 years from now, no one ever says a word about me having 5, 6, 7 million followers, I could care less. It's going to be about, there's going to be so much bigger, so many more opportunities coming, that we're kind of putting our nose to the grindstone and building, to create this content our way and to be able to control the monetization and do all those things. And you see it with these mentors we had, Gordon, Blaze, Naisha. They don't need social media.
Yeah.
They've built this stuff. They've built their brands from the ground up. Social media is a tool in the tool belt, right? And that's what I try to hold on to. That's why I haven't retired from teaching, because I know that it could be gone tomorrow. It could be done tomorrow. It could flop, and my content could just nosedive for whatever reason. Hopefully it doesn't, but here we are, and you just kind of roll with it.
It was so. Ironically, my favorite episode was actually the one you got eliminated, right? So a little ball busting, but we learned that filleting a fish is not your strength, which is okay. I'm sure you've been working on it since. But the way that you went out, I think speaks to the volume of the man that you are. So you were, I'll probably botch some of this, but I believe you were one of the older folks on the show.
I think after 3 episodes, I was the oldest.
You were the old head.
Because I think the first few that were eliminated, Kamalia, Alex, and Mark McMillan, former Eagle, were the 3 that were older than me. Okay. Oh, and Daryl. Those 4, and they were, I think, the first 4 to go. Yeah. So after those first 4, I was the oldest. So I kind of, like to think that amongst some of the younger, crew, my boy Nuri, Teeny, who are both just doing incredible things. My boy Chris, who was the hothead,
Yeah, I enjoyed him.
Kicking elevators and shit.
I just loved his intensity.
Yeah, like that's my dude, man. And we're all intense. So like I vibed with him, but I also knew how to calm him down. And I kind of hope I taught him a little bit how to center that, intensity in a positive way. And he made it to the finale, and he was as close to winning as anybody. So.
But what was the young man's name that you went against? He was the youngest in the group.
Preston, 19 years old, man.
So you actually made one of your best dishes, I believe Blaze had said.
Lobster.
They wound up going with Preston.
Yep. Split decision.
And you had said such a beautiful thing as you were exiting that, as a teacher, you really enjoy the impact that you make on the future generations. And you knew that you were going home and you were living the dream, and you hoped Preston found his dream through the show.
Yeah.
I mean, to lose, to have all of that emotion and to say something so prolific like that and so impactful, like I said, I think that's a beautiful summary of who you are and what your intentions and ambitions are. So just wanted to share that for folks who maybe didn't see it. But check that out, because you'll probably cry too. My wife and I were like so distraught. We're like, there's no way he's going home. But hearing that made us feel even better, because you are living the dream.
This is a kid that at 19 years old won the World Championships of Food last year before he went on the show. Just incredibly skilled, so talented, so driven. And to see that as I'm competing against him, wanting to win, right? Like, I'll never pull any punches. Like, I wanted to kick his ass out of there because he's 19 at the same time and he has the world at his fingertips. I wouldn't have felt too bad if I sent him home. The kid's 19. It's like the 23-year-old bachelorette or bachelor that get eliminated on the show, and they're in the car crying their eyes out, like, "What's gonna happen? I never thought. Like, oh, he dumped me. What am I gonna do with my life? Like, sweetheart, you're 23. You're beautiful.
Yeah,
you're gonna be okay.
You'll have another at bat.
Like, you're gonna be fine. So if I would have sent him home, I would have been fine with it. But at the same time, my most difficult. Maybe there's a lesson in this. Prior to that show. We got the chance to, practice a little bit of filleting fish, just regular size fish, which I'm great at that. I've never filleted a 40-pound fish.
That thing was a monster.
It was a monster. And cod has such a tough skin. And so the shape, it's bony, and it was just a mess. I freaking hatched it up. But we still got what we needed from it. But it was just like a snowball rolling down a hill, man. I felt it from the beginning, and I couldn't get back on track. But, they edit stuff. And at the end, when I did say what I said as I left, I also said to Gordon and them that, as bad as today was for me, it was probably the most fun I had in the entire show that day. Because sometimes when shit is going bad, you just got to lean into it, and there's going to be a lesson you're going to pull from it. And that's what I did. I don't know where it came from. I don't know how I kept my calm. I don't know how I laughed in the face of just an utter disaster that episode was. I mean, I'm cooking and I'm like already thinking how they're going to edit this thing.
Right.
I'm like, this is friggin' terrible. I had to deep fry. I had to throw my fish in the deep fryer to get it done. Yeah. It was just brutal. But I laughed and I had fun with it, and my teammates all picked me up. And at the end, I told Gordon, I said, this has been my worst day by far, but it's the day that I probably will look back on as the most fun. And I think there's something to say for that. I can't say that I necessarily went into the show thinking I was going to win, but the experience that I had is what, I had hoped for. And I think the connections and the relationships that have come from it are going to continue to build opportunities for me. And yeah, man, if you ever question doing anything, like no risk, no reward, man. And that's, that goes back to our parents probably saying that kind of stuff to us, so.
Absolutely. While we're on this emotional journey, I want to point out one other post, and then we'll get to talking about what's cooking to kind of wrap up. But so one of your posts earlier, it's not all barbecue and fun and games all the time, but you had posted about some of the fertility issues that you and Kristen had. And something very beautiful came of that with your students. Go ahead, go into that story.
Yeah, so that was back in 2017.
Man, that was that long ago?
Yeah, dude.
6 years ago.
Yeah, because Adric's 9, Nash is 7. He'll be 8 sooner than later. And our third would have been Kanan. And yeah, he would be about 6 now. Yeah. So it's wild, but Kanan was our 5th loss in 7 pregnancies over the course of the years that we were trying. We lost 3. We had Adric and Nash, and then we lost another 2. The last one through in vitro, we did IVF for a different reason than most, right? Most do IVF because they just can't get pregnant. We were in a different position. We couldn't hold the pregnancy, right? Getting pregnant wasn't a problem. Like, I'd look at her and she'd get pregnant like 7 times. Getting pregnant wasn't the issue. It was getting through that first trimester and holding the pregnancy that was the issue. So, the doctors recommended that maybe we do in vitro, control the environment more, have more control over that, the meds, the shots, all that stuff. We did it. And this was after 4 losses. So, we did our first round of IVF and it didn't take. Heartbreaking, defeat, money, all those things. So then we get through, have the conversation. Do we go for round 2? Do we have the money to do it again? And we did. We figured out what we had to do. We scraped together what we needed. And emotionally, we felt like we had one more shot in us. So we did. And, being a little bit older, Kristen isn't, bringing out 18 eggs either, so we were limited in that sense. I think we had like 3 or 4 that she was able to get. And 1 worked and she got pregnant. And we started that process. She was on the shots. I was poking needles in her belly and all that kind of stuff. And so many people relate to this. And you don't realize it until you talk about it, which is why I'm so happy to talk about it, in a crazy way. But, we got pregnant and we got through that first trimester, which was our okay, take a deep breath. You're always worried about it. But, we got to week 12, week 14, week 15, and we were rolling along and everything was great. All our appointments were great. And then we got to like week 16, right around there, and we had an appointment. And I left school and met her, and I had to take Adric with me, which our kids, Adric and Nash, would never come to appointments with us just because we knew, it could be emotional. So, but Adric was at daycare at the high school, so I had to pick him up and take him with me. So he was actually at the appointment with us. And we went in and, long story short, Kristen had a little bit of an issue. It was on a Monday. That weekend, she kind of wasn't feeling him kicking, moving around as much. So she was on the phone like Saturday. Wednesday was the appointment, but Saturday, Sunday, she was worried. I think it was Sunday night. So she called the doctor, but she couldn't get in for a quick scan to see if everything was okay. They said, come Wednesday, just go upstairs, get quiet, lay down, see if you feel. And she felt him a little bit. And so she felt a little better. And then, work. Monday goes by, Tuesday goes by. She's not really thinking about it that much. We go to our appointment Wednesday and no heartbeat. So some sort of clot or something. They'll never be able to say exactly why, but some sort of clot cut off the airflow and, lost Kanan. So that was the 5th, the furthest along. They're all devastating, but each has their own story, right? And it was killer. So we both missed a decent amount of school. I was in health at the time teaching juniors, and, I missed like a week or so. And I went back because Kristen had to go through the whole surgery process and everything. Having 2 kids already, they were both in daycare at the high school. All my kids knew Adric and Nash, social media stuff. They all knew the kids. They were in the building with me all the time. They knew that we were pregnant. They knew, my kids knew everything.
Sure.
So when I wasn't there for a week, when I came back, it was like they knew something was up. And they could probably see it. But as a health teacher, I was like, the only way I could think of dealing with this, considering that they know something's up. Like, you don't just miss a week of school as a teacher, without kids knowing why. So I sat down in health class. I pulled my chair up. I told all my classes 5 times. 5 times I told that story that I just told in school in front of all my kids. I pulled a chair up. I sat down. Some of them cried. I cried. A couple days goes by, and A couple days goes by, and my third period class comes up, hands me a card, and it had 2 Sixers tickets, and they all signed it, and they said, "Thanks for teaching us, to keep your head up and push through, and all this. We love you." And I'm like crying, friggin' reading the card in front of the class. They took the video of it, and then they asked me if they could post it on Twitter. I'm like, sure. And it went a little viral, and people started reaching out. And at the time, I was just starting on social media to grow, Instagram really. And, from there, I had a couple, news stations reached out, wanted to hear the story. I had reached out to a contact with the Sixers and kind of wanted to flip the whole thing on its head and say thank you to my kids, my students. So I turned it into a field trip, and I got approval from the school. They've all been so supportive. So we turned it into a field trip, and I brought my whole class to the game. The Sixers donated 30 tickets and a suite to bring my whole class with me. I got chaperones coming. Some parents came, and the news came. Fox came with us and followed us. ABC, I think it was, came, and they did a whole story on the whole thing. And through that, a meat company, meat purveyor, reached out to me and told me they wanted to donate, money towards me throwing a barbecue for my kids. And I was like, well, I can't just throw a barbecue for 30 kids. I have a school of 2,500 students. I'd get killed for that. So he said, whatever you need. And then other donations started coming in. I put it out on social media. The response was crazy. We did a fundraiser barbecue for the home opener football game at Township. And we sold barbecue pork, pulled pork, and bag of chips and water for $10. Unfortunately, there was a monsoon, and the game got canceled before the national anthem was even played. But we had sold 100 sandwiches to that point, so we raised $1,000. And then I put on social media that I had pans of pork for sale, and people came out in the rain, in the storm, to pick up food and give me money. And we ended up raising almost $4,000, for a few different charities. One, Cleft Lip and Palate, which my older son was born with, and Epilepsy Foundation for the Bollendorf family, who is our principal superintendent at Washington Township, who and MS, which my stepmom has MS. So, that's what started it, man. Yeah. Like that's what started the company, because in order to do that and do it legit, I had to have a business. I had to have my food handler's, certificate. I had to have all that stuff, the health department inspection. So I went through that whole process and did it. And that, the first Groark Boys barbecue event was a fundraiser. And, I like to say to this day, that's still a huge part. And, I hope it's the only part, is at some point with everything else I have going on, if I do sell my barbecue rig, the part of that, the food service part that will stick, will be my work with foundations and things like that. So I've done a lot with veterans groups, still work with them quite a bit. Anytime the township needs anything, I'm always there. So yeah,
it's an amazing story.
It was wild, bro.
Triumph.
It's wild.
So let's so quickly so Joe doesn't kill me in there. I know we're a little over our time, but these stories are too great.
Kind of knew it would be. Yeah.
What you've been teasing all of your followers with this what's cooking, right? I've been on the website, I've signed up. I'm like, when am I going to get some info? So let us know what's cooking and what is next.
So Groark. So I have a rub line, Rub City, rubcity.com. You can go and get any of my rubs and seasonings. We hope that only grows, but with my Rub City partners, we started amongst other, about 5 other amazing social media guys that are just the pinnacle of success and growth on social media. They each have their own multi-million amount of followers that are just committed to what they do and hang on every word. So we all got together, and you can sign up at whataretheykooking.com to get notified when this whole thing is going to launch. But we are working on a huge project that will launch hopefully the end of August, early September. Limited on what I can talk about it, but if you see any of our social media, you'll get little hints. And essentially we are going to take control of our content, and put it out there the way we want. And it will monetize the way we want. We will collab with the people we want and put out some education and fun and, literally anything and everything you want to know about barbecue, grilling in your backyard, and open fire cooking. We have an absolute pro in, the man when it comes to Argentinian style cooking, Al Fragoni, who, if you find him on social, it's like his stuff is insane. We have the man when it comes to offset smoking, Jeremy Yoder, who just has an insane following. And whatatheycooking.com, sign up, and we are going to change the entire playing field in terms of content and how it's brought to you. And can't wait for that. And once we drop this thing and the news breaks, I'll have to come back on and we'll talk more about it.
I will definitely have to, because I don't even think I made it through half the questions I had jotted down for you. But I really do. I greatly appreciate your time. I know you've been back and forth coast to coast, so being here in person means a ton to me. Make sure, if you don't follow him, at Groark Boys Barbecue on every platform, and make sure subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure you keep up to date with all the new episodes, and we greatly appreciate your time today. And as always, best day ever, y'all.